Red Dead Redemption 2 released this week on PC, but not easily. It was to a suite of severe technical issues. Many players are unable to even launch the game, and those who can, well, they're reporting performance problems, while others are wrestling with a tremendously iffy refund policy. Rockstar have begun the process of healing with a Day 2 patch that solves some issues, but the crux still remains. How can they justify this, and how can they justify a refund policy that is worded in the way that theirs is? Hey everyone, and welcome back to another industry report. Of course, as always, be sure to like, sub, and ring that bell to keep the algorithm happy. And with that, let's get started. So Red Dead 2's launch has been far from smooth. Rockstar released recommended specs at the start of October, but, well, players are now finding that those specs do not provide a recommended experience whatsoever. Nvidia then actually have released their own recommended specs based off the in-game benchmarking tool, and, well, they differ significantly. Rockstar recommends a GTX 1060, but if you're hoping to hit 1080p with decent settings, then Nvidia suggests an RTX 2060. Now, to push the detail past higher to get up to 1440p, well, you'll need an RTX 2070 or 2070 Super. If you want to get ultra, well, that's a 2080 Ti. Now, not only is an RTX 2080 Ti like the best GPU in the market, but if you want 60 FPS at 4K, you'll need a mix of medium and high settings, not even maxed. So it seems like Rockstar, well, didn't hold back in the high end whatsoever. And while this is going to feel bad now for those rocking a 2080 Ti, maybe a 9900K, it does make sense given the average lifetime of a Rockstar game on PC. I do remember GTA 5's launch, which, well, that triggered many GTX 970 owners to realize the issues that card had going above 3.5 gigs of VRAM usage. I mean, just look at how far PC hardware came since then. Now, Rockstar may have just figured this into their development, expecting benefits that, you know, their game will just, keep up technically a few years down the line. However, it's also very likely that they just did not optimize it well, because as much as most of that statement normally makes sense, I mean, clearly, they did not hit their targets with their recommended specs, giving roughly a recommended experience. Now, I should also mention that, yes, Nvidia's tool does point out pretty much how wrong Rockstar's recommendations were, and of course, those are the recommendations that they sold customers products based on, but I should mention, Nvidia, of course, do have an incentive to try to upsell you a more expensive card. Not saying they're doing that, but I mean, I think it is worth mentioning. But yes, keeping your settings in line with Nvidia's recommendations should allow you to run the game optimally, but even those with the proper hardware are struggling. To cast an eye over to Reddit or Twitter is to see numerous reports of the game's technical difficulties, with many people being unable to even launch the game. And, well, if it was out on Steam right now, I'm pretty sure the Steam reviews would tell the story. Players have reported a variety of bugs and crashes, but perhaps the most common one is, well, this. Red Dead Redemption 2 exited unexpectedly. That's an error message that loads of people are getting. Now, this crash has been reported on both the Epic Games and Rockstar launcher version of the game. Basically, the game won't launch, and the error message's explanation of how to fix this is rather limited. The closest that it gets is to recommend relaunching the game in safe mode with reduced graphical settings, which, I mean, is obviously not fixing the issue. Now, the message also does provide a link to the Rockstar support FAQ page, where it cites the most common cause as well, out-of-date graphics drivers. Now, it suggests that the versions released in line with Red Dead Redemption 2 should solve most problems. Rockstar later recommended that players actually just disable antivirus software or just add the game as an exception as a means to fix that crash, which of course was echoing some advice from a previous community fix. Now, of everything, another common and rather perplexing issue is that of the Rockstar launcher itself. There are countless reports of the launcher crashing even before opening the game, though it seems to be a bit more frequent on systems that are running the new Ryzen CPUs. And this is a pretty interesting story. So back in July, when the new chips launched, Destiny 2 was unplayable on those CPUs for almost an entire month. Now, to keep it quick, a difference in implementation of one CPU instruction in the new chipset stopped the game from launching until the issue was fixed on AMD's end via a BIOS update. And something similar seems to be happening here, although it's tied to the Rockstar launcher's DRM implementation. So players found that the same tool that lets GTA 5 skip the Rockstar launcher does work for Red Dead Redemption 2. It does let the game launch, but ultimately it's not really a solution because they then get caught in an infinite loading screen. Now, this particular issue persists among most BIOS versions for Ryzen users, although the much older versions and the recent AGESA 1004 seem to have a higher success rate, so that's either a case of downgrade or upgrade. Either might help, maybe. Either way, it's pretty clear the Red Dead PC experience is a bit scuffed and did not go through enough testing before it was shoved out the door by Rockstar. Now, the most recent attempt to address the issue on Rockstar's end was a patch for both the game and the launcher, and this seems to have fixed major problems for some players, but others are still having major problems. Now, Rockstar's only public comment was this: "We are aware of ongoing issues preventing some people from playing RDR2 on PC and are actively working to resolve them." Now, they said this about an hour before they released the patch and about 30 hours after the game launched, which, is quite the gap. Now, this, of course, is where we then discover that Rockstar's refund policy, frankly, is an absolute joke. So, Rockstar's refund policy is that digital games and bundles redeemed through the Rockstar launcher may be refunded within 14 days of purchase at the discretion of the retailer. Sounds good so far, but it states that a refund cannot be granted if the game has more than 2 hours of playtime, nor if the transaction included physical goods, virtual currency, or any other non-refundable item. Of course, those pre-order bundles, some of them did have virtual currency. But the real problem here is that the policy applies to pre-order, so in short, they're doubly protected. Anyone who pre-ordered Red Dead Redemption 2 more than 14 days before the release is, because of that statement, not eligible for a refund, however unplayable the game may be. If you pre-ordered at all, your virtual currency will immediately redeem, so technically you can't refund either. Red Dead 2 was marketed, pretty much as the marquee release for the new launcher, and Rockstar took great efforts to incentivize those unrefundable pre-orders for their own store and, for no others. Like, they were giving you free games and all that stuff. Now, this story is courtesy of a Reddit user who posted screenshots of their conversation with Rockstar support. Now, this Rockstar rep stated that they were unable to help with a refund because of the expiration of that 14-day period, but that the request could be referred to a dedicated team. So this could at least indicate some potential for discretionary refunds, though the process is a lot more cumbersome than it is in other stores such as Steam. Overall, it's just a bizarre story and a bit of a badly implemented policy there. We've not heard tales of day one purchases being refused refunds, but we just need to wait and see. No information is readily available about returns from the Epic Games Store version of it either, but presumably they are covered under Epic's refund policy, which is in line with Steam, but I believe is slightly less automated than Steam's. So the overall community reaction here, though, it's ranged from anger to a sort of exhausted resignation. Rockstar don't exactly have a great track record for their PC releases, but the company's renewed focus on the PC space, it did give fans of their games some cause for optimism. But this optimism was short-lived, and the lack of communication, the highly iffy refund policy, the just severe attempt to get those pre-orders, it's aggravated many. Some fans have, chosen to vent their frustrations by bombing the game's Metacritic page. It's currently got a user score of 3.3 against the 94 critic score, which, sucks for the devs who actually made the game, but you can see why, especially in a world where Steam-like reviews are not a thing, because it won't come out on Steam till later. Now, that said, I should give just a quick word on responsibility. So it's always tricky with stories like this to get a complete view. While there are always some vocal commentators, there are also often countless other experiences that we never get to hear. Red Dead 2 is running poorly for many, many players, but it does seem to be running perfectly fine for many more, and as always, there will be more of a negativity bias in, those posts and comments. So if we're being realistic, the issues faced by what appears to be everyone, well, that could easily be acceptable losses to Rockstar when it came to actually making the decision to release this. Now, they went into Red Dead Redemption 2 PC's release with pretty much everything to lose, right? The game was critically acclaimed on its console release last year, sold upward of 20 million copies over the Christmas period, which is just mind-boggling, and fans were clamoring for a PC release. They had to wait, of course, but normally that would be a small price to pay, right? For one of the most impressive games ever, coming to hardware that could really do it justice. And sadly, thus far, it doesn't seem like that has happened. Perhaps a delay would have pushed Red Dead Redemption 2 PC into next year, and I imagine that Take-Two, well, they probably want that holiday, period sales right now. They want that Christmas MTX. and I imagine that's why it's out now, even though it clearly is not ready. You know, with this big PC push and the new launcher, they could have really made it a pro PC thing, like they are, you know, redoubling their efforts, but instead, yeah, they just kind of dropped it on a rock with people without much warning and clearly nowhere near enough development time. I mean, their launcher was crashing on recently released CPUs. Doesn't that tell you everything? It's pretty obvious what they're doing here, right? They are, you know, they're hunting down money. Now, I get it. That's what companies do. But it's the way that they've done it. And the way that they've done it pretty much definitely at the expense of the quality of the product. This is, of course, all bad timing with their new push for the launcher. It really has soured that. Of course, that launcher, though, it seems to be mostly a financial decision. Releasing on their own launcher first, followed by Epic with the better revenue split, and then finally Steam with the worst revenue split. Yeah, it's a pretty transparent attempt to maximize profitability across all possible audiences. I mean, especially since they pushed the pre-orders on their own launcher and then had that really bad refund policy. And you know, elements of the plan would have been fine if the game launched perfectly and Rockstar could carry that money home with a clear conscience, but in its current form, the game is severely lacking for many players. The game and the launcher, I should add. Now, this story is developing. Of course, it is always possible for Rockstar to turn this around with a few patches. Looking at their history and given how quick their audience is to forgive and forget being real when it comes to dramatic things, yeah, Rockstar will probably get away with it. They have a history of doing so. Overall, I'd say their release is just a cautionary tale for the danger of digital pre-orders. As always, I think as has been parroted for approaching a decade now, don't pre-order. It's a bad idea. There's little to gain, there's a lot to lose. This is yet another example of that. And with that bit of timeless knowledge that many people have been just parroting for years, and I will continue to parrot for years, thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know what you thought down below. What has your experience been with RDR2 PC? Let me know, and I will see you next time.